Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Most Merciful, to all of our viewers out there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. Thank you again for joining us in The Rational, the intersection of faith and reason, with our guest here, Dr. Ja'far Sheikh Idris. Dr. Ja'far, again, thank you for being with us, and it's good to be with you. Sheikh, last time we spoke about the purpose of life as taught by Islam. And he said that the purpose of life is to worship none but our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you said that ideally, every aspect of life should be an expression of this, that it is always worshipping the Creator. And we left at a state where we were speaking as to where does worship reside. And you started by expressing it as being a mental state. And that's where we left off.
A state of mental state or a state of the heart. And the state consists in being conscious of the Creator, being conscious of God. And as a result of this, having faith in Him, loving Him, fearing Him, being ready to obey Him, and so on. This is the state. This is the mental state of worshipping. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides you as to how to strengthen or to make this consciousness stronger. One way of doing this is to know more about the Creator. The more you know about the Creator, the more you will love Him, depend on Him, fear Him, be ready to obey Him. And you remember the verse, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. Only those who know fear God. And those who know Him is meant by those who know means who know Him, because the more you know Him, the more you will fear Him.
I'm also, Sheikh, reminded by another verse that maybe revolves around the same topic, and that is فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ.
Yes.
Know that no one is worthy of worship but Allah.
Yes. There are many verses like the وَلِيَعْلَمَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكَ فَيُؤْمِنُوا بِهِ. So that those who have knowledge
will come to certainty that is the truth from their Lord.
And then
they believe in it.
Yes, believe in it. Also, this increases with the increase of your remembering Him. And that is what is called dhikr in Arabic. It also increases with
you're speaking about raising that being God conscious is further emphasized by these things.
And then the third one is to know more, the more you know about His Prophet also. This is something very important. Many people unfortunately lack this. They don't know much about the Prophet, because the Prophet himself is an ayah, he's a sign that leads you to the Creator. So the more you know about the Prophet and you love him and you respect him, the more you will be conscious of, the stronger your mental state of worship will be, because the Prophet is the person who loves God more than anyone else, and he is the one who is loved by God more than anyone else.
And he will be our guide.
Yes, and the more you know about him, the better your that mental state of worship, your mental state of worship will be. And I think also the more knowledge we have of his revelation, revelation. That strengthens your faith in God. This is God's book. These are His words. So the more you recite them and ponder over them, the more you will your conscious
of God increases.
Will increase.
Sheikh, let me ask you this. If the purpose of life is to worship God, then is worship in itself an end, or is it a mean to something else?
A means to what?
I think you alluded to it, and that is when you said that because obviously remembering God, recitation of His scripture, these are all acts of worship, but you're saying that these acts of worship should be taken to...
Yes, you remember we started by saying that worship is primarily in the heart. So all these are means of strengthening that feeling in the heart. So they are acts of worship, and in this sense, because if they are made without that mental, that state of the heart, then they become useless. A person can learn the whole Quran by heart and recite the Quran, but if he doesn't believe that it is revealed by God to Muhammad, then it might make him worse.
You also make the point that there are certain aspects of worship that are related to our bodies, certain aspects of worship that are related to, or the performance of certain acts is to be expressed through the body, and maybe other acts that are expressed in the heart.
There is a very strong relationship between the soul and the body, as we were talking about in one of our previous episodes. Very strong relationship. And the complete nature of that relationship is known only to the Creator. And this is one of the important aspects of guidance, that the Creator will tell us how to use our bodies to enhance that mental state. Because of this strong relationship with
the body and the soul.
The body and the soul. For example, when it tells us first that we must use our tongue. It is not enough to have faith in God in your heart, but you must express this. Unless there is something that prevents you from doing this publicly, at least you can say it in private, but you must use your tongue and say, I believe in Muhammad, or you say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. And this is the first pillar of Islam. Shahadatu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah. You see, there is a difference between the pillars of faith and the pillars of Islam. When each one has a special meaning, but each one implies the other. Pillars of faith are all of them in the heart. You believe in God, in His angels, and so on. Here, these are external acts. The acts of Islam are external acts. So there you say faith in God. Here you say profess faith in God.
Verbally.
And here you make acts, external acts, when you pray, when you fast, when you do this. So the first thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides you to is to use your tongue to enhance that mental state of worshipping Creator. And that is why you find so many what do you call them, hadith or sayings of the Prophet, where he tells you what to say on different occasions. Yeah. When you eat, you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When you finish, you say Alhamdulillah. When you go to bed, you say this. When you get up in the morning, you say this. When you meet someone, you say Assalamu alaikum, and so on. So you use your tongue on these different occasions. This is one of the important aspect of guidance. I remember when we were in Britain early in the 60s. I went there for postgraduate studies, and I remember one of the students. She was a girl, and she embraced Islam, and she said, she mentioned this. She said she was very impressed by this. She said she belonged to another religion, but she said that there is nothing like this in this religion. You Muslims are always making prayers all the time. So this is one way of
that expression.
Yes.
Sheikh, you remind me, when I was in the US, I was sometimes fond of attending some motivational speakers seminars, self-development and growth and what have you. And one of the advices that they give you is that they say, make sure that you verbalize what your purpose is or what your beliefs are. And they said, the more you say it, the more you hear it, the more committed to it you
I didn't know this.
And I found it to be very fascinating, and said, speak to yourself. They would actually tell the people, talk to yourself, and self-talk, and they say it can be positive or negative, but
so this is what a Muslim is doing all the time.
Self-talk, you know, in a positive way.
Yes.
Sheikh, this topic is indeed very interesting, but we have to take a short break, and we will be back, inshallah. So please stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and thank you for joining us again in The Rational, the intersection of faith and reason, with our beloved guest here, Dr. Ja'far Sheikh Idris. Dr. Ja'far, you were talking earlier about the first pillar, and that is of the Shahada, and the expression not only of the Shahada, but other aspects of Islam verbally through the tongue.
Yes, this was in the context of using the body or external things to enhance, to strengthen the faith that we said is primarily in the heart. So we gave this as examples.
And the second topic would be with regard to prayers.
Yes.
So that would be the second.
Again, prayer is primarily this what is called khushu'. This being conscious of God. This is the heart of prayer. But this is expressed also. You are using external things to strengthen this. For example, if you want to pray, the first thing you do is what is called in Arabic wudu. What is sometimes translated as ablution. You wash your hands, your mouth, nose, face, and so on. Why is this so? And it seems that because there is a relationship again here between the cleanliness of the body and the cleanliness of the heart, of the heart. But I once read a long time ago something that I found very interesting. The author of the book, who was a medical doctor, so said that if you want to activate your brain or to make wash your face several times, and he gave a picture of the brain and the the areas in the brain for the different parts of the body, and the areas are not proportional to the size of the body. For example, from here to down has very small place in the brain. And I looked into the picture and I said, Subhanallah, the limbs that we use in wudu have an area that is, I don't remember now, but it must have been more than 60% of the brain.
Interesting.
Yes. So when you wash your hands, you wash your face, you wash your feet, it seems that this makes you ready for prayer, even mentally. Because the most important thing in prayer is to be aware of what you are saying. There is that hadith of the Prophet that you know, ليس للمرء من صلاته إلا ما عقل. You are only given a reward for the part of your prayer of which you are conscious. If you pray absent-mindedly, then so long as your mind is absent, that will not be counted at all. That's why, as the Prophet said, that there will be a huge difference in reward between two people standing side by side in the row of prayer.
Listening to the same recitation.
Listening to the same recitation, doing the same these external acts, but the difference between them will be like the difference between the earth and the sky, because of this consciousness. Another thing is also in preparation for prayer, your clothes must be pure, clean in this religious sense, and the place where you perform the prayer also must be clean. And if you pray in the mosque, that will be even better. Then the most also the very interesting thing is the movements that you make. Allah chose these movements. It must be because these are the most state of the body that are appropriate to that mental state. You stand in a special way. You don't stand like this. That would have a different effect on your body. So you stand like this. Then you kneel, you prostrate. There's a huge difference, even everybody can feel this, between putting your forehead on the ground and say lying on your back and raising your legs. So everyone can see from their own experience that there is this relationship between bodily movements and acts and the state of the mind.
Sheikh, I remember a few years ago when you were teaching us about this, you said something similar, and that is a person cannot grow spiritually if they are physically in pain. And part of what you said is that the physical states within the prayers, they do help in that spiritual growth in a person. And I remember the example that you gave. You said, we were not asked to stand on one leg, for example. You'll get so tired that you'll be consumed by your physical pain that there will be no more room for any spiritual growth in that regard. You also speak, Sheikh, about the recitation during the prayer.
Yes, I'm giving all these as examples of external acts that help to express that mental state. And also, that was about prayer. Then what about fasting? Sure. Also, you are using your body to have that feeling, to increase that feeling of being conscious of the Creator. Had it not been for the fact that God said, do this, we wouldn't have resorted to fasting. But now that we do fast with this intention, we fast with the intention of worshiping God, we do see the difference that it makes in our mental state. We abstain from eating and drinking and sex and so on and so on. All these are physical things. But when they are done with that intention, they achieve this purpose. If they are not done with that intention, then as the Prophet ﷺ said, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in no need of you
giving up eating and drinking.
Giving up eating and drinking. This must be used as an act of worship. Only in that case will it be useful. The same thing with pilgrimage. Pilgrimage. And in all these, you are combining that mental state with the words of mouth, with bodily movements. So it is not true. Some people think that these external acts are not important. What is important is that you have that consciousness of God in your heart, and so they want to belittle the role of the external acts. But you can't have that mental or that consciousness that is in the heart without these. It is not for nothing that God said, and the Prophet insisted on this. صَلُّوا كَمَا رَأَيْتُمُونِي أُصَلِّي. Pray as you see me pray. And we see him only doing the physical things. We don't see his heart. So when we say we pray like the Prophet did, we are imitating the Prophet in the physical acts that he does. Also in pilgrimage, he said, خُذُوا عَنِّي مَنَاسِكَكُمْ. Take your rituals from me. See how I do this, and you do it. So these external acts, when they are made as expressions of the mental act, become very necessary.
And the point is to enhance,
yes,
and further elaborate and promote and encourage these acts. Sheikh, by pilgrimage, just for the benefit of our non-Muslim viewers that they may not know this, we're talking about the once-in-a-lifetime trip to Mecca that Muslims take if they are able physically and financially. Okay.
Once in a lifetime, that is the obligatory one, but you can make it, of course, as you know, more than once in your lifetime.
Okay.
That's...
There is also, Sheikh, the idea of the times and places of prayers.
Yes. Again, this is something that only God can tell you about. There's a verse in the Quran which says, وَرَبُّكَ يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ. That Allah creates and He then chooses from His creation. And so some creation, say of places, not all places are like each other. We don't know. And physically, we don't see any difference between, say, Mecca and any other place. But why did God choose that place to Abraham to erect the Kaaba there for people to face when they pray? We don't know. But this is one of the ways of God. He creates and he chooses. He creates human beings. He chooses prophets. He creates days of the week, and he says Friday is the best day of the week. Ramadan is the best month of the year. The 10 days of the Hijjah, the last month of the lunar year. The first 2 months are the best days of the whole year, and the 3 important mosques, the mosque at Mecca, the mosque of the Prophet at Medina, the mosque of Al-Aqsa in Palestine, are the 3 more important places. And even ordinary mosques are better than other, and so on. So then God directs us as to when and where to do some acts of worship. And we can see from our experience that there's a difference between praying at home and praying in the mosque. We can see that there's a difference when you go to perform Hajj in Mecca, and so on. So this is one of the most important examples of guidance, divine guidance. This is something that no human being could have thought of or known. All places for us are like each other.
Sure.
But in the sight of God, this is better. Why Ramadan? God says, because this is the month in which the Quran was sent down. Why was the Quran sent down in that month? Only God knows.
So it's not only that our purpose is to worship, but God has shown us the way to worship Him. In addition to this, some acts were prescribed as well as some times and some places as well. Sheikh, we come to the conclusion of this part of our program, and inshallah we will carry on from this and more about worship in Islam. Thank you for joining us for this part, and hope that you would join us again. Until then, we say so long, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.